Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Cedar Lake Plan Commission February 7th, 2024 work session. 6 o'clock start. Please rise for pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Parker?
Here.
Mr. Carnahan?
Here.
Mr. Hunley?
Here.
Mr. Stetauer? Present. Mr. Wilkenien is absent. Mr. Capora?
Present.
Mr. Oliphant?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Ms. Abernathy? Present. Ms. Hyduke is present.
Jerry's not gonna be online, huh?
I've heard nothing from him about being online, I just know he's not.
He was online last night, that's why I was wondering. Okay, no problem. All right, number one, Torok, final plat. Owner petitioner Andrea and Anita Torok, 1360 North Sandburg Terrace Apartment, 1202, Chicago, Illinois, 60610. Vicinity of 8510 West 146th Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting a final plat for a one-lot subdivision. Good evening.
Good evening again.
Yeah, again.
Yeah. So, as you probably remember, my sister and I own the two properties, southwest corner of Cedar Lake, and we had petitioned the board to be able to combine the two properties into a one-lot subdivision. The reason we're doing this is because we want to put an addition on to the current house to extend over to the property we bought, and the addition and remodel of the house will provide my sister and I with 2 bedrooms on the ground floor. Both my sister and I are elderly and have difficulty walking, and we can't walk up the stairs to the original house bedrooms anymore. With that in mind, we have previously submitted the preliminary plats by Turinga and also the building addition plans by Hen Construction. And we are at the point today, which is the reason why we're here, is to approve the final plat survey. Well, actually, it's a work session. The final approval will be in the next meeting in 2 weeks. So today's meeting is to discuss any questions you may have with the final plat survey. And I believe you have received a copy of it, and Mr. Oliphant has received a copy for any discussion with Turinga. So with that, any questions?
I don't know, I think we're pretty much squared away, right, Don?
We got the final plat on Monday, the 29th. My surveyors already looked at it. I need to glance at it pretty quick, but there shouldn't be any issues.
Okay. Building department, anything, everything's good, right?
Only comment of note is instead of 8514 west on the plat, the recommendation of the building department and the chief police is that it be 8510, staying consistent with the current mailing address of the
Yes.
property.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that the original plat that you received had 8514, but it should read 8510.
Okay.
If that's the address we want to keep, the
Sure.
original address, yeah.
I think you mentioned at the
Yeah.
last meeting.
Good change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioners have anything?
Yes, sir.
Good. Oh, good, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See, in 2 weeks, it won't be done, right?
I hope so. Okay, thank you.
Then we can start building the addition.
There you go.
There you go.
Number 2, Cedar Lake Storage, rezone. Owner, Cedar Lake Storage LLC, care of Vislaw, 12632 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Petition Nathan D. Viss, 12632 Wicker Avenue, Cedar Lake. Vicinity of 9019 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake, Indiana. Requesting a rezone from M1 to B2.
Terry's not logging.
Thank you, Mr. Capura. This seems like deja vu. It
Yes.
is. I goofed, as I shared in my letter to the commission a couple of weeks ago. I thought I had sent out notices. I had, but they were for a different packet of 7 homes on a different property. So thus, we need to go through the rigmarole here and get back in front of you for a public session. Work with Ashley and staff. We've triple-checked that we sent to the right folks. We've sent out notices to the Times, so we're ship-shape for 2 weeks. So I apologize for the confusion, all on me.
No problem, except everything was pretty much cool last time, right?
It was contingent contingent upon legal reviews being checked
Right.
off and the zoning commitment, getting the final proofing done by myself and Mr. Austin, because the legal weren't in order.
Mr. Austin, do we have any problems or everything cool?
We're gonna need an ordinance, that's it. Prepare that for the council.
Commissioners?
No, sir.
I would like Nathan to kind of explain what's going on so that the public has an idea of what is happening over there.
Sure. Whenever you come before the commission for things like this, you need to put notice in the newspaper, and you need to send notices to the adjacent property owners. Inadvertently, I sent notices to a different property that I was also working on, so thus public notice wasn't satisfied, so we need to rerun the public notices.
Yeah, but kind of explain what's happening on the property.
Oh, what's happening on the property?
Yeah.
Oh, so what this is property is used for interior storage. There's also a commercial building that's located on the property for business use. Current zoning is M1, which is high industrial use, and my client's actually issuing, I think, a gift to the town. We've all acknowledged we want to rezone it from M1 down to B2. And the reason for that is it greatly enables the business when they come forward and want to rent and use the space. That's right alongside the roadway there. They don't have to come before this body and seek a variance in order to occupy the space of the business.
And just for the benefit of the audience, if you're not aware where this is, it's across from Smith Ready Mix.
Correct.
For the record, Jerry's online now.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello, John.
Okay, hang in there. In the
I'm hanging.
sunshine.
All good?
All good, see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Number 3, Faith Church, site plan. Owner petitioner, Faith Reformed Church, Brian Ford, 181st Avenue, Dyer, Indiana. Vicinity of 6729 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting a site plan approval for an expansion of an existing Faith Church building and parking lot. Hi, Jack.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Jack Halls from DVG, representing the petitioner this evening, Faith Church. We're looking to do a sanctuary expansion. Ted Rowan, the architect, is also present if you have any questions regarding that. So we're doing a parking lot expansion to the east and then also to the south, which includes an upgrade to the detention facilities. That is on the southeast corner of the property. We're also going to be locating another detention facility up on the northwest corner of the property. Basically meeting all of your ordinances regarding this. We've done some site lighting calculations, and actually, we're gonna comply with the ordinances regarding that. So I think we're gonna be okay there as well, so. Any questions that you have?
And there again, just for the benefit of
Sure.
the audience, I hope everybody knows where Faith Church is, all right? And the space that they have accommodates, what, 225, and they're going to 800?
Yeah, so it's in the mid-200s to 300 people can seat currently in the sanctuary, which is on the, so as they present from the street, it's on the upper level. On the south side of the building, that's actually the main level of the building. That's the elevation of the floor level for the sanctuary. The new sanctuary will be located directly to the west, and it will be about footprint size, about 1.2, 1.3 times the size of the building that's currently there. And it will be primarily all sanctuary space. The other space in the building will be repurposed, and it will seat up to 800. Currently, the church has three services, I believe. So they have need for additional seating, so that they can unify those service times to maybe 1 or 2 instead of having 3. That's always good for a church to have people come to the same service, just for having cohesiveness amongst the congregation. Otherwise, you tend to get 3 separate congregations. So it's good for the congregation to have that expansion. It's also needed. But along with that then comes all of the infrastructure that would support that. So we need to expand our parking lot so that we have sufficient parking. Your ordinance states that we need to have, one space for every 3 feet. We feel that's a little low for what's needed there, and so we're actually providing well above that. I think it's like 277 is what's required, and we're providing 358 in phase 1 with the potential for another 90 spaces that will be built sometime within the next 5 years or so. So that's included also with our petition, is that we want to be able to build that parking lot, knowing that that's on our plans to do that. So our detention pond, all of those things have all accommodated for all of that in the development, so.
Don, do you have any questions at this time?
No, we issued a letter on the 1st, so we just need to get through that before next meeting. So we'll wait to get a resubmittal and then.
The roof line looks like it's gonna stay pretty much the same as the existing church. Correct, or is that a little higher?
This is part of the BZA petition that we have.
Yeah, I know.
But I believe it does incrementally go up as we go to the south, just because that, you're familiar, why don't you speak to this?
Okay. Do you have any renderings available?
They have the concept renderings that
Yeah.
were provided with the petition.
Okay, yeah, so the new addition meets the existing building at the west end, and it progressively goes up higher as you go west. One of the reasons we're asking for height variance is the floor line is set level with the existing, I think we spoke about this in January's meeting. And so on the majority of the building, you know, your roof line is like 30-some feet, 37 feet. But because it's like a walkout condition along 133rd, that's where you get the higher. But it does pitch higher, and we have long span girder trusses and bar joists to accommodate the 800 seats, so.
What's the height of the west end on the south side?
Well, the height at the highest point, which is a parapet, we've got this element on the corner, is
Right.
53 feet, but the...
But that's on the north side.
That's on the northwest
What's
side.
the south side height?
I think,
Is that hit ordinance?
like 30-some.
That's an ordinance, isn't it?
It's slightly above, I think.
Need to be 30 feet at top of peak berm, 12 inches below to high foundation.
And, yes, so we have, on the rear parapet is at 32 feet 6. And the actual roof line itself is 30 feet 6. So along that south wall, and as you travel a little bit towards the west wall, we're right there.
John, page 20 of your packet for that item, it kind of gives you the north elevation, the west elevation, and the south elevation to give you an idea. There's no elevations on it, but it kind of gives you an idea based on existing roof lines, what the new ones kind of can compare to it. It's kind
Yeah,
of going
I'm
up like a
looking at that
triangle
one,
in a
yeah.
way.
Yeah, I'm fine with it all, I just wanted to clarify that. You're gonna have to explain it all to me next week anyway again, so.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow night.
I'm on the BCA, so.
Tomorrow night, don't come next week.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Tomorrow night.
please be here tomorrow night.
Look at that.
Darn.
At 6 o'clock now.
6 o'clock.
And just so Cheryl knows, I have my hearing aids.
What?
I have my hearing aids. Oh, you said what?
Got you.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm good. Anybody else got any questions?
You ask all the questions.
Oh, well, thank you.
I had one question, one comment.
Yes, sir.
The question is, this expansion is not really gonna require a whole lot more domestic water for fire, sprinkler, or anything, correct?
No, our understanding is that the building currently is sprinklered. It has, our understanding from the fire protection company, it has sufficient flow to sprinkle the rest of the building. So
Okay, thank you, Ted. I would also like to thank you, Jack Hubbles, for bringing the detail and the professionalism to the board, because I appreciate seeing these things. Thank you.
Jack always does a nice job on his details.
He does, and he always brings the sharpshooters in the room with him.
Is that an orange shirt you're wearing, Jer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just making sure.
Absolutely.
He's like glowing.
But I'm not worried, where you think I am.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then we'll see you in a couple weeks,
Just
or
to-
tomorrow night.
To also address part of Jerry's questions, all the plans have been sent to Public Works and Utilities. They've all come back and said that the expansion will not have any impact on any utilities because it's already an existing system. And the building
Okay, actually,
department has no.
the reason I asked actually was because, there was, some caveats with their, fire sprinkler system when the original building opened. That's the only reason I was asking.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Number three, oh, I know it's number three. Number four, Joyful Acres, preliminary plat. Owner or petitioner, Lindsay Porter, 6425 West 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake. Cindy of 6425 West 141st Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting a preliminary plat for a one-lot subdivision.
Hello, Jack Hulse representing Lindsay Porter on this petition. This is about a 6-acre parcel that is located on 141st. We went about this a little bit. It's west of Moore Street, about a half a mile, just before you get to the town limit. The reason for this one-lot subdivision is your code requires any building permits to be pulled against a recorded lot. It's not a recorded lot. We'd like to believe the house has already been taken down, rebuild that house, and so we need to do the one-lot subdivision so that we have everything in order for that. So last month we presented it to you as conceptual. We're here for primary this month in 2 weeks, and then we'll follow it with the final plat in March.
Is that house going to be built on the existing foundation?
I don't believe it is.
The
no.
existing foundation has been removed.
Oh, it has, okay.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So all we're talking about here is a one-lot
Just a
subdivision.
one-lot subdivision, yeah, because the house goes through your normal building permit department, so that wouldn't come here because it's not a commercial.
Okay, so we don't have to talk about the house or the pigs or anything,
No, it's just a one-lot subdivision.
or the two containers on the lot?
That would all fall under your ordinances regarding
You don't want to
home
hear it.
construction.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody got any questions on the one-lot subdivision?
We have an existing letter from the 11th that hasn't been addressed yet.
I'll have to check with Glenn, make
Okay.
sure he's done that. I know,
It's pretty minor, but
yeah, I saw, actually Lindsay just sent over to me the plat of the vacation that was done last night at the town council meeting. So that, I believe that addresses
South.
the east road, right?
yep, Louis,
Yeah.
across both those parcels, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I actually do have a question.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Don Oliphant, I was wondering, in Lake County, Indiana, what is the acreage required to have a hobby farm? Is it 5 acres or it's 7?
leave it at 5.
I can't tell you that, Jerry. I don't know.
Okay, well, since we know it's gonna be a hobby farm, maybe I'm a little off the rails here, but if this is a hobby farm, as it's been proposed, I'm gonna call it a hobby farm. Is there some special circumstances and, details that have to be, upheld regarding, runoff? Because we know that property is not 6 acres of flat land.
I think that's gonna be dependent on what our zoning code states with a hobby farm, which I don't think it does.
We don't have a hobby farm. Agricultural use, poultry, fowl, livestock animals, anything that goes on a farm is supposed to be on an agriculturally zoned lot, 8 acres or greater. If it is less than 8 acres and it's agriculturally zoned, it just needs a developmental variance. If it is not zoned agriculture, then it's going to need a variance of use. They did get a favorable recommendation on a 3-1 vote at the BZA in January for the keeping of pigs, ducks, and chickens, a total of 20 ducks and chickens and 6 pigs at the January BZA. It's waiting on a use commitment to go to the town council for their approval or denial, depending on the council's pleasure. They are going to keep all animals 225 feet from any residential home. I don't know where that puts them in regards to the wetlands on that property.
And let me give some history. Out of the state of Indiana, there are 92 counties. Lake and St. Joe County are the only 2 counties that BZA recommendations have to go to the town council. The BZA and all the other 90 counties, they approve it and it's a done deal. It moves no farther. Just a little bit of history.
I just wanted, I don't want any new problems to start.
You're concerned with the drainage, Jerry?
I am, Bob. I've looked at the property, GIS and boots on the ground, and there's a lot of it that I wouldn't consider presently buildable for a building. However, one farm animal turns into 2, and 6 turn into 7, and 7 turns into 14. So I just want to make sure we've covered our bases regarding what could happen with the runoff. That's my only concern. The hobby farm, the barndominium, I'm still trying to wrap my arms around that for the lack of foundation, but I just wanted it on the record. Thank you.
Okay. Heather, you had a question?
Yeah, I want to hear what the status of the containers is. I know you said they're talking about it tomorrow, but this has been a hot topic with another property, so I think just to stay consistent, I'd like to know the answer to that.
Part of their variance application was to utilize a Comex box on their property prior to construction. Typically, when somebody's building their house, we do allow for them to have a Comex box on their property to store materials, equipment, supplies in while the house is being constructed. Once the house is constructed, the Comex box has to leave. Their request is to use the Comex box prior to construction and after construction convert it into a accessory structure. So that is part of their BZA variance tomorrow night, is requesting continued use of a Comex box and then to convert it into an accessory.
So the original BZA meeting was for the farm?
Both, use variance and developmental.
And now it's to add the box?
The box is already on there. So the use variance was for the farm animal, and then the developmental variance was to build a barn dominium style house, as a post frame building style house with metal siding, and for the use of the Comex box prior to construction and then to convert it into that accessory structure.
So I know we're off base here because this isn't this conversation, but I can do it now or I can come for public meeting tomorrow. It's just going to be the same situation. But the question I have is who's going to police that? So if it is approved and then it sits there as a box for 10 years.
It would be part of their variance, if approved, part of their variance approval by the building department and building inspectors, and if they don't follow what is approved by the BZA, then we can follow along with the zoning ordinance and any type of penalties and fines therein.
The barndominium in the box has not been approved. It was deferred at the BZA till tomorrow night.
What was the 3-1 vote that you were mentioning?
The 3-1 vote was for 6 pigs and a combination of no more than 20 ducks and chickens. It was a 3-1 vote. I was a dissenting vote.
And that's to send it to the town council.
And it was sent, favorable approval 3-1 to the town council. Town council has not heard that yet, or had it on their agenda. The box was there, I went past there, they had 6 pigs or 4 pigs in a pen. They had chickens in a little hen house, and they had 1 box there. I went past there the other day, I didn't see the pigs, so I don't know where they moved them to, or the chickens, but they had 2 boxes there. And to me, that's kind of an insult, like they stood up and slapped me in the face. I think that's BS. And that's gonna be said at tomorrow night's meeting too. So I don't know where these people are getting off at thinking that they can go ahead and put stuff on their property and that we're going to approve it. And as far as barn dominiums go, I got the town ordinance here, I got what a pole barn is, and you can put spats on a pig, but it's still a pig. So you can call a pole barn whatever you want, but a barn dominium is a pole barn. Plain and simple. I hope that answers your question.
Well,
Yes
I
and no,
was under,
because the other thing along with that, so if they were approved to have 1 and now they have 2, again, to stay consistent with other issues that we've had with these on properties, have they been notified of that?
We have not notified them yet because we were gonna bring it up at the BZA tomorrow, because they were told, don't do anything else, because they got a warning. They got the first stop work order back in November. They stopped all that they were doing, they got everything on the correction notice done, and they began working with the town to bring the property into compliance. They were told, do not do anything else, you have to get everything taken care of. BZA, plan, town council for the vacation, you gotta get it all taken care of first before you can do anything else. Then found out at the January BZA that on top of having the pig there, which we knew about, they then moved in chickens and ducks. Didn't know about that one until the January BZA meeting. And then, one of the inspectors went by it the other day and also found the other box, and we were gonna bring it up at the BZA tomorrow night and pass along our unfavorable recommendation from the building department for that portion to be approved, because why work with the town and say you're gonna work with us, and we tell you don't do anything else, and then you just keep doing what you wanna do.
It's a rough start.
Did they red
well,
tag?
They did
Actually,
get
that's
a
it.
stop work order, yes.
After
Mr.
the
President, I'd
second,
like to ask Ashley a question.
good, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, John. Ashley, once the second box was known, that's immediately a violation. Jack, Mr. Hulls, I apologize for going down this rabbit hole, but, we need clarification on all this, because I thought they were excited for having 2 Conex boxes until the BZA approval or denial. So I apologize for me going down this rabbit hole, but actually, when the second box was known, that was a violation. Was there a violation written, a red tag written on the second box being there?
I would have to check with the inspector who spotted it.
Okay. Mr. Auction, every day that goes by, the violation is another violation, correct?
That is exactly what our ordinance provides.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else. Thank you. I agree with Heather. I'm sorry. I agree with Heather. This needs a lot of clarification.
I'd like it on the record that you agree with me.
I also, as I'm not actually looking at the notes here, was that, how many ducks and how many chickens? Was that a combination, or was that 10 of each, or what was it?
Any combination up to 20.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yeah, and just to clarify, that first box that was there was not approved yet, it was deferred. So they actually have 2 boxes there that are not approved, that are illegal.
Right, and Connex boxes becoming structures has been requested before by the Legion some time ago, actually to put a roof on 2 of them, I believe.
Right.
But I'm not sure that, I don't remember the outcome of that, but I don't see them there, so I'm assuming that was not allowed?
That was denied,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other questions?
So, if I may respond.
Yes, please.
Without stepping into a pile of manure.
On a farm.
Just for the record, I have nothing to do with any of the BZA petitions that have been filed or are in front of you, so I'm unaware of what they are. Our office was contracted to prepare the documents for the primary plat. And to that end, I would suggest to you that irregardless of use or irregardless of what they choose to build on there, the legal process of creating a one-lot subdivision is separate from those matters, and it can go forward, because no matter what gets built on there, somebody is going to need to go through the process of doing a one-lot subdivision and creating that as a legal lot of record. If all of their BZA things are denied and they choose to sell the property, the next petitioner will be in front of you for a one-lot subdivision, because they'll want to build a house on this property. And they could choose to build a regular old house and meet all your ordinances, and they would be able to go right ahead and do that. And
With
so,
a one-lot subdivision.
with a one-lot subdivision. So I would suggest that, and I do believe this to be the case, that these are separate petitions. And the outcome of the BZA would confine them according to your wishes. But the one-lot subdivision process is entirely separate from that.
I have full intention of seeing the one-lot subdivision through and not related to pigs or chickens or barn dominiums or anything along those lines, because this should stand, like you said, on its own merits in a separate petition. So I see no problem with that as long as engineering looks at it, and well, I guess they just need to look at it and see about drainage, right? Or no?
It's not even drainage, we'll deal with drainage at building
Well, I
department,
know
whatever
drainage.
they do with, whatever they decide to do with it.
Hold on. If there are violations on a property, to me, pardon the pun, it stinks to grant anything to that property. Mr. Austin, how does that all, it's all married somehow.
I'm still recovering from the fine dance.
Please don't use that word.
From the what?
From the fine dance Jack just did. It's as fine a widow as I've ever seen. You're exactly right, Heather. There is a tie to these.
Right.
And part of the reason we're having the discussions we're having tonight is because of the totality of circumstance. So you've got all of this in one pot presented by a petitioner, same petitioner, who has a unanimity of purpose for that 6.18 acres. So they're connected, at least as I view it, sitting here, hearing how you are evaluating the petition that's before you.
I just want to add one thing. I have a pond on my property, and last summer, there were 5 or 6 white ducks that showed up and took up residence in my pond. They're not my ducks, and I didn't bring them there, but I didn't do anything about it either. So in a situation like that, what do? Am I in violation?
Could be.
And what about?
What am I supposed to do? Send them an eviction notice?
Wait till we expect you to show up.
Invite them in the house.
Yeah.
Name them.
Well, look at the geese that come to the lake. We're in violation.
Every time they hop on my boat.
State's
I think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't figure they were hurting anything, so I just let them be, but I didn't put them there.
Well, right here it boils down to the fact is, do we proceed with the one-lot subdivision, or do we listen to what Heather had to say there and take that into consideration, that there's, and what David said, all this is kind of intertwined together with what they want to build in the one-lot subdivision. I agree with Jack that eventually it'll have to be a one-lot subdivision to have something built on it.
Heather's point, though, in introducing the question was whether a parcel that has violations on it should be subject of a petition for approval for some other land use,
Correct.
or for something in our codes or requirements, and probably should not, and this is a great place to start, but 1402 gives you also a recent proximity of our zoning ordinance text to be enforced.
Mr. President,
Yes.
On that moratorium that was just passed, this is 6 acres. Would the That we approved then? I thought it was under 1 acre.
It's in the queue.
It's already in the queue. Something that's already in position can still move forward.
Now, I understood last night that if it was approved, platted, or pre-plat, then it goes ahead. Not if it's in the queue.
No, John.
That's not true.
That's what they said last night at the meeting. They said right
That's not
there,
the way
That was my
Let Dave answer
understanding.
that.
He wrote it.
John, if we have a petitioner such as Jack's client, who comes into this town hall, fills out an application form, drops their check with the right amount of money, with the appropriate application appended documents, and just walks down the path, they are in the queue, and they are entitled to the benefit of that ordinance being followed, and the rights of petitioners in it also.
I also asked the question, what about Jet Pizza and Hot Wings that wants to build over there across from Holy Name?
1 acre.
Right, and I was told that, they haven't come before us yet, and I was told that would be allowed.
It's less than 1 acre though.
Yeah,
Right.
and this,
They've been before the plan commission on that.
yeah, but we haven't given them any approval.
So
We haven't given them any approval, they're still in the queue.
Yeah.
So what's different about?
Right.
All right, I misunderstood them last night, but,
I still don't understand.
I have a suggestion regarding this petition.
yes.
We've advertised for the primary plat. It seems to me that you would rather say these things to the petitioner as opposed to me personally. So, in 2 weeks, I will make sure that the petitioner is here. And then you can say these matters to them regarding the violation, and you can defer at that time to the next month until those matters are taken care of.
Jack, we haven't
It's in the
advertised,
queue,
Jack.
that's how we would handle it. We
As
didn't have
opposed to
moratorium.
coming out of this meeting and saying we don't want to see you in 2 weeks. That would be where I perceive that we were headed.
Well, I don't know why we don't cut one more step out of that and just issue a violation notice.
Well, I think we can still do that.
But
I think-
why are we spending more time having the petitioner come here, we're sitting here for another however long, our audience is sitting here for however long, talk about a violation that shouldn't be there to begin with? Why isn't that issued? And when that's cleaned up, come on back.
Code enforcement needs to do that.
Jack, we haven't advertised yet.
We haven't.
No, so when it comes for primaries, typically I send the advertisements out
Oh.
the next day
I
after
get
the
you.
work
I thought we'd already
session.
done that.
If the
Okay.
plan commission says it's good to go to public hearing.
Right.
So if they say, yes, it's good to go to public hearing in 2 weeks, then I get you the advertisement tomorrow morning.
Sure.
For,
Okay, then
for
we
other
can do whatever you
reasons,
want.
it's
That's
not
fine.
ready to go to public hearing though. Not the moratorium, but the violation of our code unabated.
Yeah, it's fine. So you tell me if you want to see us in 2 weeks or not for primary plan. If you say you don't want to because of the violations, I'll take that back to our client and say, be prepared for some fun
Well,
tomorrow.
I would kinda like to see them start to work with us,
For sure.
because they have not been doing that since they walked through those doors. So I would say, you go back to them and tell them that, and when they're ready to clean up and come back with, clean property and what we have, then we'll put them back on the agenda. They can come into a work session and explain it all. But until then, I don't see why we need to see it. Any disagreement with that?
I agree completely.
I concur also, Mr. President.
Okay, that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
You could leave, and here you are.
Okay, number 5, Dairy Queen, site plan, owner Tim Vinyard, 9917 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner, Hampstead Builders, 12028 North, 200 West Wheatfield, Indiana, 46392, vicinity of 9917 West 133rd Avenue, Cedar Lake. Petitioner is requesting site plan approval for an addition and remodel for the existing Dairy Queen. Hello.
Hello, my name is Ted Vineyard, sorry, it's not Tim, but it's Ted Vineyard.
It's Ted?
Yes.
Okay.
I am the owner there, and we've been there for just over 2 years, and we would like to propose this remodel that, getting ahead of what Dairy Queen requires us to do, it would allow us to rework our interior and expand our kitchens to our new hot and cold kitchens that will allow us to bring it up to modernization for the Dairy Queen Code 3.0 version. The addition would come off the back with the coolers and freezers exterior, and then a small addition to the west that allows us to, gives us the width to relocate the bathrooms interior-wise. Site plan, really it's, we're eliminating some concrete off of the front, reducing the size of the patio, which kind of reduces our overall coverage, with a small increase there in the southwest corner where the new trash receptacle enclosure would be. And then, well, I guess that's kind of it. I don't know, questions?
You own 10 Dairy Queens,
We do,
and you closed the one in Wanata, and then you took the one over in Woodfield.
yeah.
Dang, Bob.
Are you gonna lose any parking spots?
I'm on top of some of this stuff.
No, the site plan as is, the parking basically stays the same. Because, we really only lose 3 feet off of the sidewalk, increasing to the west a little bit.
So addition's only gonna be 3 foot?
No, just to the west. The south is the addition, is the big addition that increases our working space and our storeroom and the interior part.
But that's in between the back of the building and like the drive-through,
Correct.
where it's
Correct.
just kind of dead space. I think there is parking, employee parking there.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Couple spots.
not designated, but yeah, that's where the employees park, between the south end of the building and the cooler or the freezer that's exterior, and then the drive-through menu board, which is, would virtually stay in the same place, it would just be modernized.
Don, any questions?
We issued a letter on the 31st. Two biggest questions would be, is there lighting being added or taken away, or?
There's no lighting planned changes.
Okay, and then secondly would be detention requirements. You're showing detention on the demolition and development plan, but there is no detention out there now that I'm aware of. And you don't have any information on proposed, if that's the case.
The space that's back there now is kind of overgrown.
Okay.
There's like a great big tree in the middle of it, kind of thing, but, really what we're proposing to do is just to clean it up so we improve the flow
Okay.
back there.
You probably need some additional clarification on that, because you do break the threshold of needing detention, even with this building expansion. And based on existing contours, there's really no storage out there to speak of. I don't know what the original intention was. We just need to be more clear on what's going on back there.
Isn't there a garage on that site for storage?
Storage, well, yeah, storage, but detention storage.
Oh, I see.
We're showing it on there, but I think historically it's never been actually treated as such. So there's just a generic footprint shown on the development plan now. I mean, we would have to know some information about what volume's out there, how is it discharged, because it ultimately would go south to Summer Winds, and there's no houses back there. So we need to kind of get to a level of certainty about what's going on back there. And right now, we really don't have anything on it besides just a footprint.
So as it is right now, if that's not detention back there, it's all gotta go forward to the street. And
No,
it's
you
clarified.
actually break a threshold, because our threshold is noted on that letter, the last comment, it's either 500 square foot of a building and or 7,000 square foot of disturbance. You're breaking both of those thresholds to require detention, and it would only be required for your improvements that sit today, not retroactive to what was there. But, and if there's something existing there and it's something we can clean up and potentially make more efficient, I think we're good with kind of considering that your detention, but there's
It's
not a
likely
lot of
that could be
information on it.
expanded, right?
Huh?
It's likely what's there could be expanded to meet.
Or just cleaned up to make it actually function properly. I mean, if we're saying it's overgrown and nobody knows how it outlets, I mean, we'd like to know that, especially with, you know, residential subdivision to the south now. And that all kind of does drain south in the summer winds. So before, I guess, we would be on board with an expansion, we kind of want to know how the existing site functions as a whole.
And how do we determine that?
We need to do some investigation about what that looks like, because right now, if you pull up contours, there's really no substantive storage out there. I mean, it's all just completely sheeting down, so there's no indication there's anything back to that stores anything. But it shows on your plan that there's tension there, which doesn't make sense to us.
Okay.
Were they basing that off of the original plan?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know when this was originally constructed.
90s, I'd say.
According to our notes.
Was it that old?
Between 78 and 98.
83, 87, somewhere in there. When I checked the report card, that's how old the building looked.
So it's well before any kind of stormwater ordinances were in place, even the original one for the town. So most likely, there is no detention back there. So that's why we were kind of perplexed on why it's shown on the plan.
Well, it had a remodel in 2008, so something should have shown up somewhere, right?
If it was an interior remodel, no. And I don't remember seeing that come across our desk.
Expanded the concrete patio, I think, 2008.
I believe it was an internal and a facelift on the outside.
Yeah, if that's the case,
If you're
it
gonna
never
add
would have come.
impermeable space, doesn't that require stormwater?
It should. I mean, if it's below, if they added less than 7,000 square feet of impervious area, no, it wouldn't trigger the stormwater ordinance.
Got it.
And that drains to the west, southwest, instead of towards Utopia subdivision, over by CVS, that area in there?
And this all funnels down into Summer Winds drains into Sleepy Hollow, around the west side of Utopia, and drops down around it and then heads east towards the lake. So I mean, right now, this, like most commercial developments along this corridor, it's kind of crowned somewhere probably around the building, where that would shed to 133rd, but everything else sheds to the south.
Doesn't sound like a deal breaker, it's just that it has to be cleaned up.
We just need more information, and right now, the topography we have indicates there's nothing back there that would hold any amount of water. I mean, there's no closed contours to indicate a depression. It just goes straight down. So for us to see a stormwater detention on the demolition plan, which is existing, that caused some confusion in our review, because as far as I know, there's nothing back there for detention, like nothing.
And how would you define that as detention? Like,
It has to be a depression that has a controlled release.
a controlled release?
Yeah. And like I said, if this was built in the early 90s, there would have been no ordinances to dictate that it would ever go in then.
According to the assessment report card, 1987 was year built.
Yeah, and that's well before any kind of stormwater ordinances were in place.
There also wasn't 80% of that stuff on the map then either.
No, and most communities didn't have anything in place in the 80s.
Yeah.
Instead of cleaning that detention area out now, could they enlarge that detention area?
Well, I just don't think it's there. Period.
Just cleaning it out would probably,
Potentially if it's there, but, I mean, we have 18 and 98 contours on it, and they're pretty dang similar.
You probably just need to have somebody look at it, do some calculations, and
We need to go back there, I mean, we can run out there and look at it. It's gonna be pretty apparent if there's something there even from 30 years ago. But I mean, everything from, 20,000 foot view in the office and looking at contours indicates nothing's there. And nothing came up in the Summer Winds, development that would have indicated a connection point for any pipe coming off there. Because we did have pipes coming off of DeMott, we had pipes coming off of, O'Reilly's.
A lot of those buildings have underground stormwater.
Some of, yes, DeMott has an underground one, the Family Dollar, O'Reilly's has one, yeah.
O'Reilly's has
one.
Cool.
We have a connection point, CVA has an underground.
Does that go out the back or they go forward?
They actually go out the back. So like Cedar Lake Kitchen has one that was connected in Summer Winds, O'Reilly's and Dollar General have one that was connected. The new bank was actually part of the Summer Winds subdivision, so that has one. DeMott has one underground. I don't believe Subway has one, 'cause that's an older development. So, yeah, every kind of commercial subdivision here on this line, Burger King has one on the west line, has one.
What about tech credit?
So you're saying that it would
Tech
have...
credit does not.
It would
That
have
was a
to...
special case.
That's a controlled release then?
Yes, all those have controlled releases.
So then they would have to come out of the detention pond and tie into...
We would have to tie into a rear yard drain somewhere in Summer Winds. Summer Winds is accounted for your off-site flow coming into it, but there was never anything shown on their surveys to show a connection, like a direct connection existing, which indicates there's no detention there.
What's the best next step?
I mean, we can run out there and just get our boots on the ground and see if there is anything there, and if there's nothing there, then we need to likely create something or a waiver has to be granted.
Is Hampshire doing this project? They're gonna do the remodeling project?
Yeah.
They probably have somebody that they work with on these types of things.
Okay.
I mean, they put the plans together, so I'm curious what their thought processes was with that. If it was meant to be proposed, and if it was meant to be proposed, then we need calcs for it.
Okay, I think they were under the assumption that it was there when they were working off of a prior plan.
Okay, and if they have something like that, I'd be happy to look at it and go out there and see what's out there.
Okay.
But I was under the impression there wasn't anything there.
Okay, I know that there's, like, our sewer drain comes back toward that area, and it's gotta tie in somewhere back there.
There, I think that's where your sanitary connection is. Your sanitary sewer connection's back there, but not storm. There's also a water main back there. But as far as I know, there's no stormwater infrastructure back there. Storm sewers.
They've got a great reputation down in Jasper County. I'm sure that they've got somebody that they work with that deals with this sort.
Okay,
I
is there
would be
anyone
very
that
shocked
I
if they
could talk to that would verify storm drain? Or is it something that just has to be field inspected?
Most likely something has to be field inspected. Because it would be most likely a above-ground outfall. Because there is no active storm sewer back there, except for the ones on the rear yards of Summer Winds, but they're rather new. They went in 18 or 19.
I don't know.
I mean, and if we needed a connection, we do have an easement across those rear yards to connect into them. So,
Okay, but no matter what, they still have to have the existing or the detention pond.
unless you get a waiver from this body, that would be an engineering waiver from the stormwater ordinance.
And he'd have to make that recommendation.
Yes, and it would be up to you to accept it or go your own way.
Well,
Yeah.
without looking at it, can't make a determination.
No, and that was the crux of the comment, that we kind of need more information to figure out if there's something out there and, if it can be mucked out and improved, or if we want to require additional, because if it is additional, then we need calcs to know how much the additional would be, and that would go into us making a recommendation of a waiver or not.
This is part of our MS4, right?
No, this is
No.
stormwater, this is all stormwater ordinance. Which, these requirements are pretty similar across the county.
There has been stormwater issues in that area in the past, and that's why a lot of that infrastructure, post the industrial park, the industrial park's kind of.
Well, and it's going right into people's backyard, so.
Yeah, we have rear yard drainage there to mitigate for the runoff as it sits now. So, And I believe, I don't think those might be the two lots that aren't actually built on yet.
Which lots are they?
3 and 4,
I don't think they have permits yet.
I don't think so either.
Is there, dimensions or requirements for that, detention area? Like you said, it has to depress or,
So there's a calculation that you can do, that your engineer can do, based on your disturbance area, and that will, based off a release rate, that will generate how much volume you need. And that will that'll basically tell you how deep a pond needs to be based on its surface area, and we'll take it from there.
and that only takes into consideration it would be half of, or the back half of the property.
It would only be your proposed disturbance area. So essentially, the existing disturbed area that you're not disturbing again is essentially grandfathered. It's only based on proposed disturbance area. It doesn't matter if it's pervious or impervious. It's just disturbance.
So if we're only disturbing the concrete in the front,
I mean, it would be your new portions of your patio, the portions that you're eliminating and restoring to grass. It would be, your new areas for your dumpster enclosure, your new building layout, so whatever that square footage comes out to. You would do a release rate off of that, and then you would, in this case, run something called rational method, and that would determine how much volume you need. I mean, if Hampshire wants to get a hold of me, they can. Our number's on our letter. If they want to reach out and discuss this, I'm more than happy to.
okay.
And it was sent off to them.
Yep.
Okay, do we have any other concerns with this project?
Mr. President, I have a couple of concerns and questions.
Okay, Jerry?
First of all, the petitioner has said it's overgrown and has not been maintained, which, of course, is not allowed. The second thing is, what I remember is there was a small detention area back there, and the cattails started growing quite quickly. I don't ever see any water in their parking lot, however, it was put there. From my memory, it was put there to avoid flooding the field in the back, but as Don has said, there's other considerations to keep that from happening.
Well,
So
yeah.
this property,
With the detention basin, Jerry, too, with our new regulations, they need to submit an operation maintenance plan to basically keep it maintained in perpetuity. So
I totally agree, Don, and I'm gonna ask that you do not go out there and waste your time or anybody else's time until it's cleaned up as is required by our ordinance and by the property owner or whomever.
That's fine. If that's the board's direction, then we'll certainly coordinate with Hampshire if they give us a call to give them some direction, if they want to discuss.
It needs to be cleaned up. It's been a long time, and I'm quite certain that whatever depression is there to slow that water down is not the same size depression that was there once upon a time. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
No, sir.
I don't.
Understand?
Okay, we will be in contact, thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Number 6, Beacon Point East, Unit 4, reduction of performance letter of credit.
All right, we have a series of these. These are all being reduced down to the maximum allowable amount of 25% of the original letter of credit. Basically, all these are further enough along that a good chunk of the utilities have been tested and approved, and a good chunk of the as-bills have been approved, and really the remaining items are surface pavement related. So when the time comes in 2 weeks, Beacon East Unit 4, our recommendation for reduction goes down to $359,608.00. And Beacon 4 is the northern part of Beacon East. It'd be the last phase, kind of the upper block, we'll call it. Bring it up here. That's Beacon 4. So if anybody's got questions on that one, I can answer them. Otherwise,
Speaking for the, problem parcel.
no, it's still Beacon 1, which got extended at the last meeting, I believe.
July 30th, June 30th, one of those two.
Extended to July at some point, yeah.
I believe that.
So this would be the 2 northern detention basins, but we do have punch lists on those, but we have enough to cover with the reductions.
But, the other two,
Beacon 6 and 7 are kind of back-to-back phases of what we've termed Beacon West. So 6 is located here. It's kind of a mini block around the corner west of Beacon 5 where they're building now. I think there's been 2 homes maybe started through Beacon 6, maybe more.
I can't remember how many that one has sold. I know it's not that many, it might be 3 or 4 now. I know there's some pulled in both 6 and 7.
Okay. So, I mean, similarly, that thing's down to, you know, pretty much surface. And I think the anticipation would be maybe the end of the year, but by the time they get surface down, but they have a long ways to go for building.
Yeah.
That one would be reduced to $133,733.95. And then moving up to Beacon 7, which is the kind of upper interior block of King, moving towards Summer Wind and connecting into Centennial Villas. It's also bordered by the unplatted areas of Beacon Point to the east. This one's a little bit more just based on the size of the plat. Similarly, though, I don't know if they have any building permits pulled for that, but they do have all the roads, utilities in. So that would be reduced to $309,673.13.
And then the bank reached out today, in all the letters of credit that we've accepted from People's Bank, they have an exhibit, and part of their letter, it was appended that if a reduction is allowed and granted, that they can put it on that exhibit. They wanted to make sure that that was acceptable by the Plan Commission before they move forward in doing all 4 letters, or if we want brand new letters, since none of them are expiring. There are drafts of those on the iPad.
So it's either or from now.
They want a direction on if we can accept it like this, because it is in their letter, that if there's ever a reduction, they can just fill out this form. The developer signs off on it, Don signs off on it, the town signs off on it, and then it gets appended to the letter because it's still an active performance letter.
Probably have easier enforcement with a new letter.
We haven't historically ever signed a letter of credit, so that's kind of out of left field.
They called and asked today, and I said, it's never been asked before, and would ask for direction.
People's like that.
I would recommend not, since we're not officially an employee from the town. I don't think it's a great idea, but I'll do whatever anybody wants. It is odd.
Mr. Austin, you're saying that's not,
No, I recommend that we, get a new replacement,
new letters.
new letters,
That's-
replacements.
that's just kind of the procedure that's always been, and
It is.
that's
That's what I think should happen too, new letters.
That's what I think as well.
I'll agree.
Easier to enforce.
If they want to append our letter, I'm fine with that, but I don't think we should be signing anything.
No, you don't sign, they sign.
Yeah.
I'll let the bank know.
All right, and then the last one would be Lakeside Unit 2, Block 1, which is the new, I think, 54-ish lots south of kind of the original Lakeside North. They did get all that infrastructure in at the end of the year, and really that's reduced for the same reason. Utilities are pretty much up to stuff, and then really they have surface HMA left. That one's pretty big, just due to the lots and the extension of the detention basin, so that's $605,505.40.
They fixed the road back there. Weren't they in probably for?
They had some issues laying their, what we call their geogrid down, that we fixed after some lengthy discussion with them, yes. So it's down, curbs are down, HMA intermediate's down, but, so, yeah.
Okay. Update items. Beacon Point West, Unit 5, former letter of credit expires May 19th, 2024.
So I believe that one is down to its minimum reduction or maximum reduction, however you want to term it. I think they're planning on paving that closer to the end of the year, so we'll keep an eye on that, because I don't know if they're up to final pavement percentage yet. I don't think they are, so, but I would anticipate that one.
I'll run those numbers tomorrow about where they're at on build out percentage.
Okay. I mean, I've talked to Jack Slager. I know it's his anticipation to try to do it towards the end of the summer. So the dates just might not sync enough where we'd probably have to extend it for 6 months.
Okay, number 2, Hanover Community School Corp., former letter of credit expires May 24th, 2024.
You want to take this one? We haven't received any as-bills from them for anything, for utilities, for detention basins, and we've had discussions with them a year ago, and we extended it a year ago about some issues we had with water main and potential bury depths that weren't met. I don't think we've heard anything since then. And I know Public Works has been frustrated with them. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them.
We had a school board member in here last night at the town council meeting and discussing those kind of issues, and they want to have a sit-down meeting with the town council and the school board.
I mean, this is gonna fall back to your recommendation from your utility superintendents. They've been driving it, and they've been getting pushback from Skillman, who is the school's contractor.
And Tim indicated that too.
Do you have any documentation of that? Do you have somebody you're in contact with over there?
With the school?
Well, with the contractor,
I mean, yeah, we have contacts with Skillman, and it's been brought to their attention on multiple occasions, direct from Ryan and Brandon, water superintendents.
What do they say to you?
They disagree. I mean, if you go out there, you will see some of their water main and valves sticking out of the ground. Generally, that happens. That means your bury depths aren't being met. And they're pretty easy to figure out. You can do measure downs from the valve. So we know they're not being met. And they're trying to claim that the plans were approved as such. But it also doesn't alleviate them from meeting our standards. There's a reason we have bury depths for water for several reasons. And if that's going to be a publicly accepted water lane, which it's meant to be, then they have to meet them. I mean, the fact that we haven't received any as-bills for anything is concerning.
Some of the last communications I had regarding letter of credit was from Skillman saying they are aware of everything and that they are working to correct it. That was 2023, early 2023, April, May, somewhere in there.
When
And
they
it's
likely
been
extend it again.
Why
We haven't heard
it's
anything
been-
since.
Mr. Oliphant, I have a question. How much is outstanding as far as financial assurance for the school project?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I don't believe they've ever received a reduction. So whatever they posted initially, I think it's still active. I mean, in the scale of the improvements they installed, it was probably substantial. $1 million more?
Seven figures.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I don't understand what they want to talk about, considering there's been little coordination.
I don't either. I mean, they could have come in for at least a reduction. We know the infrastructure's in. I mean, they're operating. So.
Well, I agree. I don't think talking about something that's been ignored for a good portion of what I believe Ashley said was a year.
Jerry?
Yeah.
I believe what they were talking about last night is a meeting with the school corporation and the town council, not with Skillman. They want to find out the facts, what's going on.
Okay.
Because they're getting the story from Skillman, one story, and they're hearing something else from us.
So, Mr. Becker, you're talking about a conversation about the past, not a conversation about the future.
No, what's going on right now?
I think it's for clarity
Okay.
purposes.
Yes, clarity. It's not, we're not digging up the past or anything else. They want to find out exactly what's going on because they're getting two different stories.
Considering that anything
Okay.
having to do with the school corporation also bends back to the taxpayers, what's the most amicable, reasonable, expedited way to handle this, where it's not racking up time and money on the town's part and on the school corporation, meaning taxpayers?
Well, I'm just
Well, I
spitballing
have
here, but it sounds like it's a failure of Skillman.
I don't care what it is, well, how do we fix it?
I mean,
I
Skillman,
have a
yeah.
suggestion, I have a suggestion for fixing it, and that is everything that Skillman has been given be sent to the school board. And if they have any questions, they can discuss their questions with, Don. And if they need legal clarification, they can give Dave a call. I don't think the town should be doing any of this nonsense.
I mean, Skillman should know better. They've done enough work in the town with every school, to know
I
our
understand.
policies. And they really haven't changed, and especially the letter of credit and public infrastructure stuff. I mean, that stuff hasn't changed in quite a while.
But don't we always have a problem with Skillman? Seems like.
I'll let you interpret that as you may.
The letter of credit amount that we're holding is $373,557.25.
Specifically
It's-
related to water main.
It's
And
not
when is-
that it's not minor. It's
What's that number again?
300 plus.
$337,553.25. Let me double check that again.
I would've thought it's more.
So, Don, will that amount of money cover getting done what we need information for?
I don't know, Jerry. I mean, so this was all discovered, my understanding was when Public Works was doing their kind of surface inspections and testings for the water main. And these were kind of visual items that they could do. We still require as-built that will give us actual elevations on valves and hydrants that will kind of verify what their concerns are. And that could have been done at any time by them. That needs to be done as well to reduce or rotate the letter of credit into maintenance. And we don't have any of that information yet, so I can't tell you if it's one segment of a water main or if it's the entire thing.
Well, I'm asking about what needs to be done in relationship to the money that's still, in our hands.
So, I mean, if my memory serves correctly, the bulk of that letter of credit was water main related, because once the sewer went into the property, it was a private sewer. The water main is public because it kind of will create a loop eventually. And that's why it was made public. It was always public with the middle school as well, when that kind of stuff went in 10 years ago at least. And that's a bulk of what the letter of credit is for. I think they had some minor expansion on the detention basins, but the detention basins were existing. So, a lot of this is going to stem from what your water department is comfortable with and what the as-bills vet out, but we can't make that decision until we see an as-built.
Actually, before a meeting happens with the town council and the school board, which is gonna happen, we need documentation on everything that is needed to satisfy what the town needs. We're gonna need documentation for all of that.
I was combing through my emails today to get everything together to provide to the town council. I will also grab Don's letter from when they got approval for the expansion of the middle school project.
And is there any way you can document why we need this stuff? You know, like what Don was trying to say, you know, because the depth for the water, you know.
I mean, it's all in the subdivision ordinance and development standards.
Right.
I mean,
Part of an approved plan.
yeah, it's part of their
I will
obligation.
work on getting an itemized thing together. I'll touch base with them, that way we can get a reason why of everything together. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're wanting to do is make sure the place that we're sending children to school is safe.
I mean, if you don't have proper barrier there, so you can get frozen pipes and.
I think we might have an understanding what the problem is, we just need a vehicle to get it resolved.
I'm not sure that the reason we need these things is something that Skillman doesn't already know.
Well, we're meeting
They've done it
without
before.
Skillman.
They've done it.
We wanna show it to them. You know, they're not gonna have Skillman there.
As I said before, everything that's been sent to Skillman needs to be sent to the school board. Let the school board chase them over the $300,000, and you figure out what everybody needs.
Jerry, normally I would agree with you on this, but this isn't a out-of-town developer, this is our school corporation, which ultimately boils back down to our tax dollars. So,
Well, I
just let me finish,
understand, but
It's a 30-minute meeting between the town and the school corporation, the board, or whoever. Is that really gonna harm anything too much?
So I get it, but if they don't have all this information to digest prior to the meeting.
They're gonna have it
they
though.
don't-
That's what she's doing.
Okay, all right.
To throw this in a school board's lap with no explanation, it seems like a gross waste of time on so many people's parts.
Oh, I agree, and of course, I hear from people, regarding that on occasion, and it's all, of course, hearsay, but, I have my own speculations about what the meeting is about, but we have to know how deep the water lines are. We have to know those things, and it's gonna cost way more than $300,000 to do all that.
All right, so what's gonna happen here is Ashley's gonna get together the data necessary for this meeting, and the town council and the school board are gonna meet and see if they can't resolve this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, next item.
It's public comment.
Yes, public comment. I'm gonna call for public comment. I'm gonna ask that public comment pertains to plan commission matters only, and I'm only allowing 5 minutes per speaker.
Thank you. Angie Michaelacek, 12806 Lee Court. There was some discussion tonight on, I just want to provide you some information. There was discussion tonight about some violations and code enforcements or whatever, and I just wanted to update the story that I have with an adjoining neighbor. I came to this plan commission on January 17th, and during that session, I was told with some situations that I had to contact code enforcement to go to the police station the next day to see what they had done as far as written codes, written any enforcement, whatever you call it, citations. So I did that. On January 18th, I went to the police department, and they had called in the code enforcement officer because when I gave the records request, she said there was nothing done on the property. So the code enforcement officer came in and spoke with me, and she said that the items that I was referring to had nothing to do with code enforcement, it had everything to do with the building department. So therefore, she explained it to me in the way that she explained it to me. I understood it to be that anything to do with code enforcement would be like if there was improper plates or no plates on vehicles and such like that. So she said, well, provide the information that you've given to me. I will go out to the property and take a look. And I said, okay, I appreciate it. So in so doing, on Friday, February 2nd, there were some building violations that were written to the property owner regarding some things that had happened. And so I went to the building department and asked for a follow-up on the letter that was written by the town regarding the problems. So on Friday, this past Friday, I went on Friday, and they said that there has not been any follow-up. That was, I believe, a little bit over or around 2 weeks after the letter was written, that there had been no follow-up that she had on record. And I said, well, maybe that I was a little premature in coming. I didn't know if I understood the procedure, because I believe it was 10 days after the letter, and then the building inspector would go out there, and then another 10 days or something like that. So she had nothing. So then I proceeded to walk over to the police station And I had asked, about the violations for code enforcement or citations, if there was anything written, and they said, no, they didn't have anything. So, actually what she said is, she said, I think you have the wrong address at the police department window. So she said there were from a different address, but then she said, contact me on Monday and I'll get this information for you. So I didn't contact her on Monday, which was this past Monday, but on Tuesday, she called me, the police department called me and said, I just want you to know that the code enforcement was out there, and I said, yes, I saw them today. And she said they had, no, record of any violations, and I don't have anything in my records at all for any violations on the property. So I proceeded to inform her that currently there were 4 trailers that you attached to the back of a vehicle. 2 were covered and 2 were uncovered.
Let me stop you here, because that doesn't pertain to us.
How does it not pertain to you? Weren't you not talking about enforcement and violation?
Not to the plan commission. If you got...
But this has to do with the storage, sir. What do you call it? The storage boxes.
Can I interrupt you for a quick second?
Yes.
What is it gonna take to get this resolved?
The owner reached out. The person who owns the shed and the carport had a major surgery and is under doctor's orders. He cannot move or lift anything. So I reached out to John, explained the situation to him, and said they were asking for additional time for him to recover and be able to actually remove the carport and the shed.
Can he hire somebody?
And
Well, there's
that's part
3
of
other
the
people
accident.
there's able people that live in that home besides the old man. Sorry, but...
If somebody could help him with the moving of that. That was passed on to Mr. Young to work with his neighbor, get that stuff taken off the property. I said, and you have to show us that you're actually trying to work with the town and get it. You can't just keep asking for extension. He called me today and said that he has removed the convex box and that the trailer is removed. I'm gonna send an inspector out tomorrow because he called me after the inspector's out today. But I also told him, you need to send me proof. I want proof sent to me in email. And he told me he's gonna send me a picture tomorrow morning, and as soon as I get that, I will send that to the plan commission.
If I may, the reason that I'm even bringing this up is because Heather had made a point, and you guys have talked about why are we working with these people that are having violations. Did we not talk about that today?
We did.
Okay. I just have to say this because it's so important. Since I had brought this matter to the attention, it came regarding the drainage in my backyard, and it has been confirmed. It's not just my house. The whole entire subdivision was made without the proper engineering that was granted by this commission. Yes, I know you weren't here, and I know it was the Wild Wild West days, but it's not just my home that's getting water. And it all has to do with this situation, with this stuff in the drainage that's supposed to be depressed swale or something.
I think that's a different discussion. I mean, I didn't say the entire subdivision was...
No, I know you didn't say it, but if you look at the plans, it shows.
I know.
That's not my point. My point is that since I had brought this to this commission's attention, it was April 4th that I had seen the town back behind the property, and I had come here to say what is going on. And I was told by the town, nothing's going on, although there were town employees there. So there were issues back then with drainage. And another thing, that since I brought this to the town, it kind of persisted, and it's not even about the building anymore. It's about, I had been cut off on the road by one neighbor on a one-way street.
All right, just a minute here. What do we have to do to resolve this?
Who's in charge of enforcing the plan commission violations?
That'll be the building department.
Building department, so that's what you need to do, because I
Let's get
don't want to hear about it anymore up
More
here.
active on these violations?
I'm sorry. What'd you say, Jim?
The
You
letter.
said, what'd you say, Jim?
Can't we get the building department more direction on, we've had 2 violations of trailers and stuff that are overdue
Thank you,
or been
thank
checked
you.
on?
That's what I'm trying
No
to
one seems to
say.
be checking on
There's
it.
no enforcement, that's the
All right.
problem.
I got dogs released on me, I got dogs released on me.
Let Dave answer Jim.
Tomorrow, thank you, Bob. Tomorrow morning, the town manager needs to receive a report on this. He needs to direct the planning people, the building department and enforcement out there to take care of it.
Can we get that done tomorrow?
It ought to
Yes,
be the
I
first
intended
thing
on sending a
followed.
building inspector out there tomorrow to confirm that the Connex box and some of the trailers had been removed.
The trailers have been pulled into almost my backyard with mud donuts that I look out my window now. There is some sort of retaliation going on.
Okay.
It's important.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give Chief Fisher a call tomorrow too, and make sure that he looks into that as well.
Thank you.
I think the code enforcement officer is like for, junk vehicles, weeds, grass, junk, trash. I don't think the enforcement officer is in charge of zoning violations.
Yeah, but if she's being retaliated against, that's a police department matter, and reports and discussions need to be had for just that. Am I wrong?
No, and we work in the same building, don't we? Aren't our departments like next to each other? Don't they talk?
No.
They should.
We're looking for results.
Exactly. Police chief and the town manager.
Okay, good evening.
Maurice Zamora, 13318 Morris Street. I'm here regarding the south property line of Domino's and the property next to it on the south side. The gravel is now coming over onto my property and it's bending the fence. I met with Ashley and Tim Kubiak on Monday. Tim just for a short while, and he has seen it before. And I've asked him if there's anything to do about it, and he said he'll make a phone call, but we haven't heard anything. And how long is this gonna go on? And then the front house, the crawl space never had any kind of water problems, and now every time it rains, we have to pump the water out of there. And then a couple other issues were, I'd like to know what the finished product is between the retaining wall and the property line. Ashley asked me to write these questions for Don.
I got them, so I got answers.
Okay.
So that's essentially a 3-foot gap. That's from existing grade to the toe of a retaining wall. And it's not a retaining wall over the entire portion of that south line.
Correct.
Because it kind of comes up and then comes back down.
Uh-huh.
So where the parking area will be, there will be a retaining wall kind of at the entrance, kind of intersecting with the hill, and then nothing, and then once it comes down from the hill, there'll be another retaining wall to the detention basin. The first retaining wall averages in grade from toe of wall to top of wall anywhere from 1.5 to 4.3 feet. And then the second smaller wall, as you head back into the property towards the detention basin, will be anywhere from 1 foot to 3 foot. And then it's meant to be, I believe, it's just it would be a grass buffer, 3-foot buffer between the wall and the property line,
Okay, all along it?
all along it.
And, okay, what is the finished product between the detention pond and the property line?
Detention basin and the property line will be grassed. The only portion that will not be grassed will be their overflow weir, which can be either riprap, it's noted as riprap, but they can also do what we call TRM, which is a turf reinforcement mat. So it's essentially a permanent mat that allows grass to grow in it, but it stabilizes it in case it ever is engaged. So that will be grass mowed per code and be, the side slope of that basin. The basin will have what we call a 3-to-1 side slope. So every 3 foot of horizontal over, it drops a foot.
Okay, that's the pitch?
That's the slope, yeah.
Okay.
That you referenced in number, huh?
You said 3 to 1?
3 to 1, yeah. That's the max we allow steepness for commercial detention basins.
Okay.
Your third, finished product, I think we just did that one, fourth south side grade line. I think the retaining wall, I think that covers that.
Okay, because they can't break.
Huh?
Southside grade line, not consistent, what grade? So, I don't do building inspections for commercial, that falls on the building department, so I don't know what kind of phase of construction they're in right now. I don't know if they've even started the wall, it sounds like they haven't.
They did not.
Okay, so, yeah, like I said, you'll have a retaining wall kind of north of the house right there, or northwest, I guess. And then it terminates as you're heading northeast, because there's a hill there, and they'll be pretty much at existing grade there. And then as we head northeast, you'll hit another smaller retaining wall, which is that 1 to 3 foot, and then that'll tie into the side slope of the basin.
Okay, because right behind, maybe just after where it shows the handicap hatch marks,
Mm-hmm,
there's another house there that isn't not shown on the site plan here.
okay.
And it says contract to match and hold existing grade around the south property line, so, but you said that's the building question?
So, that, kind of where you have it highlighted in yellow, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of the high point.
No, that's the low point.
That's the high point according to their topo. Like substantially higher, like 6 foot higher. If we're talking about the same location.
I'm talking about where the second house is.
Yeah, they don't have it, I mean, right here is kind of a high point.
Okay.
So, you're right, kind of through it on this one.
Okay, because right here.
This is the retaining wall, that's retaining wall.
Okay, right here, the grade is higher than the door of that house right there.
It could be an interim grade, like I said, I don't know what level of construction, but their proposed grades, I mean, this means meet existing.
Right.
So they're essentially, their parking lot's at 703-ish, 702.5, this is a 702 line. So they would only have 6 inches of fall from here to here, hence they don't carry the retaining wall all the way through. But I don't know if they're higher interim grade right now, I don't know. So it could be something totally different than what the final grade will be.
Okay, because it's still a mess all along that wall.
Yeah, the retaining wall's that tight, I can imagine the phase of construction's not pretty. And if they are encroaching over the line, that's something building department should check, because they shouldn't.
Okay, well,
For obvious
I've been
reasons.
out there a couple times.
Yeah. And then moving to number 5, so that is a reference to a screening requirement. It's an 8-foot opaque fence, so that'll actually be behind their curb line and on top of the retaining wall to maintain a privacy fence between you and them.
Okay, so the opaque wall is gonna be 5 feet.
It's an
from-
opaque fence,
Correct.
not a wall. Yeah, it's an 8-foot high wall.
Correct, and it's gonna be 5 feet at least from the property line.
It's gonna be on top of their wall.
Okay,
So it'll be, like I said, there's a 3-foot gap between the face of the wall and the property line, so it'll be on top of that block wall. And then run, where there's no wall, run right behind their curb line.
okay,
And then 6, the black dirt, so since they're building kind of a berm right there, it should be what we call structural fill. For a majority of it, it'll be capped with 4 to 6 inches of black dirt to allow the grass to grow.
okay.
That's how it should be done. And then 7, that's your concern about your house. I would say if that's happening, it's an interim condition, because once they actually complete that curb line, it should stop almost all the drainage from coming onto your property.
Okay, but then I have to pay for somebody to pump it out until they decide to do
An
something.
interim condition, yeah, I don't know what it looks like right now, but I can tell you in the final condition, I mean, right now, before this all happened, all that drainage kind of went towards you, as it's at, yeah. And I don't know what it looks like now during construction. If that is a concern, I would say get back with the building department, and if they can somehow turn that in the interim away from you, because they do have storm sewers kind of in that vicinity, I would advise they do that. But like I said, I'm not the inspector for the town.
Okay, who do I talk to at the building department?
Tim or Michelle,
Tim's been there.
I mean, I'll talk to him and see
Okay.
what he knows,
And
but
what do we do with the gravel that's bending the fence right now?
it needs to be pushed off. It shouldn't, if that fence line is actually on your property,
It is,
then no, it shouldn't be touching it.
right? And I've talked
Who
to
does she
Tim.
call for that?
Building department.
Made note. I'll have Tim go out and take a look, and if it's over, we'll get a hold of the developer and make him sure he's being advised you cannot go onto your neighbor's property, keep all your stuff on your property. And I'll talk to him about if the water can be turned. If so, that might be a public works thing versus.
I mean, if they have some of that storm sewer in along this, they have 2 basins right there on the south side of their entrance drive.
Right.
Those are active. I would recommend they create a berm temporarily to turn it into those basins and get it into the roundabout system.
Mr. Austin, is it still in our ordinance that you cannot discharge your water onto the neighbor's property? Is that, would that come?
It's in the stormwater.
Is that temporarily or permanently? It shouldn't be,
That depends on the design approved and the engineering for it.
I mean, we really don't comment on interim, because we don't control means and methods of contractors, how they do it. We can to an extent, but for liability sakes, we can't.
That's the responsibility of the
So
developer.
the contractor, and
Right.
as building department does inspections on the site, that's obviously something they need to watch for. We don't know how they're going to build the site necessarily, so, that's always difficult to kind of comment on a plan commission, plan development basis.
I understand that, but there should be some daily monitoring of things like that once the situation shows themselves, and
Yeah, when it's brought to our attention, I'm sure that's something building department would keep an eye on. Until it's brought to our attention, we're not out there daily. I mean, we're not, and they don't have the staff to be out there daily, unfortunately.
But Tim's been by it
Yeah.
several times.
And if he wants me to get involved, I'm happy to go out there and look at it and try to figure out a solution, at least in the temporary, and before we get to final grade and things are improved.
Don, why don't we, let the, developer help us with the solution? Let's put him on notice.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Now,
Instead of what, I mean, it falls back on us then,
Yeah.
the interim problem.
When does his building permit expire? I feel like this has been like a 17-year project.
I think you got an
He
extension.
extended it for a year and it
That's
expired.
Well, letter of
the
credit.
letter of credit. The building permit, because it's over $500,000 with the 2-year permit, he pulled it last year, so 2025 sometime.
couldn't we make the developer put a pump there, so the water doesn't discharge on her property?
Well, I
So we
think
can catch and pump it out to the,
it's a
Street?
sheet flow issue. I don't know if it's necessarily a point flow,
Well,
so
say
you
they
can
put
capture easily.
berms or something like that?
Well, that's what I'm saying, a berm might be, and that's what we gotta figure out, where they're at, a level of construction, to kind of capture it, the most efficient way to capture it. I haven't seen it, so I can't say
Okay.
one solution's better than the other, but, yeah, I mean, we can have our building department look at it and put the developer on notice that he needs to do something in the interim.
That's the solution.
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
And please, whoever is gonna handle that, please have them document it.
I'll make sure something's sent to him in an email form, that way there's copies of red receipts.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to concur with Mr. Parker. Not only do we need we need present documentation, we need past documentation regarding the site visits and what's been seen and what's been given in instruction, if any. I also can say there's only one way to get around the lake right there. So there's a lot of people drive past it every day. And my question for Don Oliphant is this: the 8-foot privacy wall will be how many feet from the cyclone fence, chain-link fence that is existing?
I mean, if the fence is directly on the property line, there's a 3-foot separation between the property line and the face of the wall. The
Okay.
fence will be on top of the wall, so it's most likely going to be a couple, probably 6 to 12 inches behind it, just for the block. And then it'll be
Right,
behind
and
the
it's
actual,
tapered.
yeah, and then it'll be behind behind the curb line effectively, that'll be along the parking lot. So it's probably gonna vary, probably 4 to 5 feet, something like that, depending on where the actual wall sits finally.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All that said, I think we should be working with people as much as we can on projects like this. And we saw Taco Bell and Culver's go up like that. This, I don't know who's doing it or who the contractor is.
Jim Broker?
sorry?
Broker contracting, broker construction,
One of the two.
something like that. He's only come forward with the one project in front of the town that I'm aware of. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I don't know
he's
if he's
come
done
forward
Well,
with any
the
other.
reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is Domino's Pizza is a franchised type thing, and if this is a legit project, it should be handled a little more professionally than this one appears to be being handled.
I think this one's a little different than those two. I think the franchisee had a big hand in both of those. like Taco Bell was handled by an engineer that wasn't even from the state. And then Culver's was handled by a direct owner of Culver's in John Terpstra. This one, I think he's just building the building, and there will be a franchisee moving into it. So there's a separation, unfortunately. And I think that's why the other one went very smoothly, because they were, I think, the hierarchy of those two organizations were kind of looking down upon it more than, say, Domino's would on this one.
Well, that's...
Yeah. And this site also has some elevation challenges that make it difficult to build. Those were two very flat sites.
Well, we didn't pick the site for them.
No, I agree.
And, we shouldn't, especially for something like that in commercial development, we shouldn't allow it to be a boondoggle for months or years.
I agree.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Mr. President, I had a question regarding the last item.
Okay.
Don, how much assurance, financial assurance do we have for this project in case the town has to pick up the mess and make it right?
That may be more of a legal question. I mean, we only take letter of credits for 95% of the time if there's public infrastructure involved. Majority of this, minus the fronting changes to its, entrance apron, are private. So.
We only have surety for public.
Yeah, so.
Letter of credit for that one is only
That guy's tiny.
$14,047.
Yep. It's only public frontage or improvements, that's it.
Okay, so it's super important that the staff dots the i's and crosses the t's.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
John, one last item, Mike. Can we go back to Angie Mikolajczyk for a second?
Sure.
Ashley, is there a petition on file?
They withdrew it all.
It was through everything?
They withdrew everything.
Okay. I was gonna ask about the code violation property in Lee Cove.
Yeah, they withdrew it all. They recognized that there were outstanding issues with it that needed to be corrected and fixed first, so they withdrew everything. So if and when they decide to come back in front of the planning commission, they're gonna have to reapply and refile everything.
I said, and Dave, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, if I am, stop me, but the owner of that property has a history of retaliatory type offenses.
Long history.
And I think that is also something that Chief Fisher should be paying attention to because of the situation. I'm not criticizing him, but maybe he's not aware.
I gotcha. Checkered past does exist.
You're gonna communicate with Chief Fisher? Does the planning commission have the authority to get a hold of someone from the building department, have them go out and check on something, give a report back to us?
Absolutely.
That'd be you.
Can you just say? It'd be me, what?
If there were to be
Authority.
enforcement of your ordinances, your zoning ordinance in particular, but your subdivision ordinance, it's at this body that would occur.
I think we need documentation.
Definitely.
Reported documentation and notes regarding both of these projects.
Do you mean this in the farm? What's both?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, all three. I'm talking about, Duncan, I'm talking about, the farm, the barnuminium property, and I'm talking about Lee Cove. Because we talk about who's doing what, and if we had the notes and information and reports, we wouldn't have to ask all the questions we'd be looking at.
Well, there should be files here. Those were projects, for example, Lee Cove. Lee Cove was the subject of a PUD project approval process when they came in here, or when he came in here. So there should be a file.
It was a very tiny file.
Well,
Where the rest of it went, I don't know. I can just tell you what was in the subdivision file drawer.
But question on Lee Cove there, without him building anything on that property, can we have him do something about the drainage on that property?
probably not, as a plan commission body, but as a town body, perhaps at storm board level, yes.
Well, I think this should be brought up to the storm board.
It was on Thursday. It's an active item.
And what did they say?
I mean, I went out there and looked at the site. The 2008 site plan that was approved, it clearly wasn't graded per plan. With the development of that property, something we can correct with that development if it ever does come back before this body and he does build something there. If they don't, there's something we can also do. But it's been discussed. Angie was under the impression that she understood that. So we essentially had an option A and an option B. So it's something that's still on the board, but there hasn't been any direction to go either way.
I think she'd be a lot happier about the whole situation if the water stopped coming into her property.
I mean, I met her out there, so, and we had a pretty lengthy discussion, and she was kind of on board with our direction that we gave on Thursday. So, maybe.
Well, Don, I heard that you were out there and that you, had boots on the ground, and that's fantastic. But, Angie also had a document, an inspection document signed by one of our staff at the time that all these things were done. And, I'm under the understanding that some or all of these things were not done. Is that accurate?
I don't know what letter you're talking about or what things you're referencing.
Are we talking when the project was presented and approved, Jerry?
No, I'm talking about a final inspection. Angie had a document that she had, obtained regarding, the site.
Did she
Things
leave us
that were
a copy of that document?
checked off and things that were checked off, and, I was under the understanding some of them or all of them were not done. And I'm not sure what the statute of limitations is on that, but there's some contouring that needs to be taken care of, because she has some water problems that obviously were never dealt with.
Well,
Beyond occupancy, that's difficult, isn't
taking
it?
us into Wicker Meadows territory now.
Yeah.
Well,
Going
that's
our territory.
right. This is, I mean,
Jerry.
I didn't hear.
Jerry, do you have access to, or do you know who does, access to that documentation?
Yes, I will make sure you have it, by, the end of business on Friday.
Was she maybe referring to the inspection sheet that is required to be signed by anybody picking up a building permit? Because,
Yeah, but wasn't that the final inspection document that she had gotten?
no, that was part of the building permit. So as part of the building permit, everybody's required to sign, our inspector signs off, and all contractors, owners, whoever's picking up the permit is required to sign off on all inspection sheets for all inspections required for any project in town. New home is more expensive than, say, a fence. That's, I think, what she's referring to, because they went back and looked at the public records request, and that's what's in the packet, is the inspection sheets required for the new home permit. No inspection sheets on everything being checked off, just the inspections required.
So
I see, well, maybe I misunderstood then.
I can comment. She said it was a guy by the name Doug, is the word they can read. And it's the 5-foot drainage behind the house that he signed off on, that it was already completed, and it was not. And that's where she's getting water.
So that's quite a few years ago.
we're in double digit years since that.
Well, that's probably 2000.
I mean, 6, 7, 8, somewhere, 15 years.
I would imagine if that document's that old, it's not enforceable.
Hey, any other public comment? No more public comment?
John, can we leave this on the agenda for an update item and make sure we get the documentation for you next month?
Please.
So you have the documentation at least. for that reason only, not to beat it up.
And if anybody talks to her, we need to reroute her to the town council maybe instead of the planning commission, so the town council can be updated. I'm sorry?
Or stormwater.
And the storm board, I'd say.
Well, she was at the town council last night.
Yeah, but we didn't talk about this, of course, it was a long meeting last night.
Yeah. I know.
I wanted to stick a ink pen in my eye by the time we got to the end of that.
Got home by 11:45.
I got a couple extra pens.
All right, any other public comment? Seeing none, we're adjourned.